Hi, everyone, and I'm so sorry for the delay. Welcome. My name is Debbie Kravitsky, and absolutely, as you all can tell, this is my first ever live video stream. I am certainly tech challenged, but I am working on it. Stay with me, and we will get better as we continue to promote videos. I am a registered dietitian. I've been a registered dietitian for over 30 years. Currently, I'm the director of nutrition at Mass General Hospital's Cardiovascular Disease Prevention Center. I've met with hundreds of patients, and I take great pride in helping people meet their dietary goals. I'd like to do the same with you. I'd like to get rid of the angst around eating, remove the stress around dieting, and get rid of that on off button as you create a consistent, healthy lifestyle. In order to do that, you have to really know why it is that you're doing this. So you have to know what your goals are. For me, I've always wanted to live to be 100 with two caveats. One is I've got to make sure that I have my freedoms. If I walk or don't walk, I want that to be my choice. I frankly don't want some cardiologist telling me I can't because my heart can't take it. And I also have to have my faculties. As much fun as it would be to meet new people every minute, I've got to know who I am. We are what we eat. And so when I see two people walking down the street, one on one side, one on the other, and the one on this side is walking with a walker, she's drooling, confused, doesn't know who they are, and the other is walking down the street. That's who I want to be. So when I take a breath and have a pause before I eat, that's what I think. That's my motivation. And that's my goal. But know what your goals are so that you can reach them and so it will motivate you and direct you as you make a decision. As we make about 200 food choices in the course of a day. That's a lot of should I have or shouldn't I have. So you have to be clear about why it is that you're doing this and whether or not a food in front of you is helping you to reach that goal. Having said that, while health is a powerful motivator, it oftentimes can be vague. Vanity, however, much more tangible. So let's talk about how to get those flat washboard abs, because abs are made in the kitchen. For that, we look to whole grains. When we eat whole grains reduce inflammation throughout the body. When inflammatory markers are elevated, they're associated with poor outcomes for all chronic disease. They are a consistent risk factor with heart disease. Whole grains will reduce that inflammation, thereby hopefully improving outcomes. Whole grains will also reduce abdominal fat. While technology's changed, we're still wired like cavemen. To a caveman who didn't have milling, you eat white bread, white rice, white pasta. It's not a white thing. Cauliflower is great. M&Ms, not so good. Your body, wired as a caveman, doesn't recognize these foods as fuel, so it doesn't know how to break it down. So it deposits the excess in an organ in front of your stomach called the omentum. It's momentum without an M. It's connected to your liver. Over time, you can have a fatty liver, and it's what pushes that belly out. So people say to me all the time, I'm doing sit-ups, crunches. I want those flat washboard abs. Abs are made in the kitchen. If you're having white bread, a white sub roll, a Snicker bar, boom, boom, boom. Instead, whole grains to bring it back home. And many people, by the way, argue that it's your waist that's a more important predictor than your weight for chronic disease. So how do you know if you're at risk? Measure your waist circumference. It's a different measurement. Many people say to me, oh, I know my pant size. This is a different measurement. Let me show you how to do it. When you measure your waist, you start by feeling, I want you all to do this with me, feel the top of your hip bone and the bottom of the rib cage. There's a space right in between. Take a cloth measuring tape, nice and level around in that space. For a woman, it should be no more than 35 inches around. For a man, it should be no more than 40. If yours measures more, then you're at risk. And we don't know why. We just know the hormones in this abdominal region metabolize or function differently than anywhere else, and this is thought to be a predictor. So how do you know you're having a whole grain? Look for the word whole. And let me tell you what I mean by whole grain. When you eat a whole wheat kernel, there are three parts to the whole wheat kernel. Can you slide that? Thank you. Three parts to the whole wheat kernel. There is the bran, the outside, the endosperm, the middle, and the germ. When you eat whole wheat kernel, you're going to get all three parts, and that will constitute the whole grain or the whole wheat kernel. You'll know it's a whole grain by the word whole. So if it says on a loaf of bread, for example, it's made from wheat flour, that's not it. It has to say whole wheat flour. You need this word whole. Organic, no relevance here. Stone ground means they took a stone and they literally rolled it over the wheat kernel. Multigrain means parts of different kernels. So if it says 4 grain, that's parts of 4 kernel. 12 grain, that's parts of 12. It could say a million grain. If it doesn't say whole grain, it simply isn't. Now, many people argue, I'm on a gluten-free diet. How in the world could I get whole grains? Well, there are foods that are whole grain, even though they don't have this word whole. They include popcorn. Whole corn is a whole grain and it's gluten-free. Brown rice, also gluten-free and whole grain. Quinoa is a whole grain and some of the ancient grains. If you are, by the way, on a gluten-free diet, I'd be a little suspect when it comes to including quinoa for 2 reasons. One, there's often cross-contamination with growing of quinoa, and also that there's a latest study that shows that the protein in quinoa in many ways can resemble the protein in gluten, so that I would test it a little bit to see if you can tolerate quinoa. Oatmeal is a whole grain, and now Quaker Oats has a gluten-free oatmeal, as again, you're always concerned about cross-contamination if you're on a gluten-free diet. Today, I'd like to show you, first of all, if you're going to have a whole grain, when reading a label, make sure that first word says whole. If it says on a loaf of bread it's made from wheat flour, that's not it. Multigrain means parts of different kernels. So if it says 4 grain, parts of 4 kernels. 12 grain is parts of 12. It could say a million grain. If it doesn't say whole grain, it simply isn't. Enriched, they stripped it, they added a few things back in, but they didn't give you the whole grain. And when you get that whole intact kernel, you get phytonutrients, antioxidants that are protective against everything, vitamins and minerals and fiber. When we strip it, we remove all those parts so that you get white bread versus whole grain bread. No fiber, none of those nutrients, and belly goes up big. So look for the word whole, and it has to be listed first in the ingredient list. Ingredients in an ingredient list are listed in the order present. The item listed first is in the greatest amount, goes in descending order. Look for the word whole, and it has to be first. If it's not, you're going to go through a mound of white flour sugar to get to a dusting whole grain, and they can call it whole grain. So many of my friends who are watching this tonight, they might be surprised, as many as I might be too, that I have a moral compass, because I should be taking a Twinkie, sprinkling it with a little whole wheat flour, and I could market this as a whole wheat Twinkie. And you might go into the store and say, Twinkies, look at that. She made them healthy. And I'd be laughing all the way to the Bahamas as you're going through all this sugar on the outside, who knows what in the middle, to get to that dusting a whole grain, and I can call it whole grain. So look for this word whole, and it has to be first. As the words brown rice, as these foods, brown rice, oatmeal, quinoa, whole corn, popcorn, are whole grain. If you're looking at a cracker such as these are Lundberg's thin stackers. I love these. As you can see, they're made from brown rice. And when I look at the ingredient list, my first ingredient is brown rice, and I'm going to know that this is a whole grain cracker. So this is a great choice. I happen to love these. They're made from whole grain. Each serving gives you more than a whole serving of whole grain. That big square is only 25 calories. I love them with Laughing Cow cheese or Baby Bell. I love them with PB2 or peanut butter. They are terrific. In upcoming segments, I'll show you some of my favorite picks in the market, but this is certainly one of those. Today, I'd like to show you a couple of ways that you can take what we just talked about and include it into your daily routines. Because only if it's easy to do and if you enjoy the taste, food has to taste good, will you be able to do that, and then it will be of benefit. So let me show you 2 fun snacks. One is pizza. Yep, I said pizza. And the other, popcorn. Ready? Let me show you. One is, I'm going to take pizza. This is Joseph's Lavash. I love Joseph's Lavash. It's a flatbread pizza. It's a flatbread. It is sold in front of your deli counter, so it's not typically sold where your breads are. It's usually near your, near your bakery or in front of your deli. As you can see, it's very thin. The entire lavash is 120 calories and gives you a whole serving of whole grain. You can put lettuce, turkey, tuna, whatever you're having, and then you can roll it up. And you've got to roll up, cut it in half. For me, frankly, half is enough, but you can eat the whole thing and you get 120 calories and a serving of whole grain. Looking at this, I thought, you know, this is also a great vehicle for a flatbread pizza. My husband loves thin crust pizza. So this is going to be a way that you can have pizza at home in 10 minutes time and it won't clog your arteries. It'll help you to reach your goals. Let me show you how I did it. I took this lavash and I took Rayo's pizza sauce and just right out of the jar, spread it. No cooking. I then took Baby Bell light cheese. Make sure when you buy Baby Bell that it says light. The regular and the light look identical, so make sure it says light. When you see it, you'll take this out just like this, and you're gonna find it's wrapped in wax, so you just pull the tab, and you see it's a thick round. So we're going to slice this into slivers so it'll go further, but then you'll have rounds of like mozzarella. And we'll scatter those over the top. I'm going to show you that in a minute. For extra flavor, if you'd like, you may also take the Laughing Cow garlic and herb cheese. It comes in wedges. And just crumble that over the top. Put this lavash right on your oven or pizza or toaster oven rack because you need it to crisp up. If you put this in a pan, it can stick to the pan, but it's not going to crisp. It'll be too soggy. It won't support the weight of the sauce and the cheese. Put it directly on the rack, and let me show you what it looks like. As you can see, I've put mine right on my toaster oven rack. No pan. I'm going to slide it right onto my board. Here are those rounds of mozzarella that I showed you, or that's actually the Baby Bell. And you just slice it. You can eat this by yourself, or have half or a quarter of it along with a salad. Yum. Live. Drop my knife. Okay, let me also show you how to make popcorn. For popcorn, I don't care what kind of popcorn you eat. Just get the dry kernels. I oftentimes will use a hot air popper. But if you don't have one, just take a brown paper lunch bag. Open up your lunch bag and pour the kernels into your lunch bag. Just enough to cover one layer. Too scant layer. If you do more than one layer, they burn. Can you see? Just a little bit. You can do a little more of that if you'd like. Fold this bag twice. You don't need any fat. And you're going to put this right into your microwave. It's going to pop in the microwave. Don't put it, my microwave, I put it on about 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Don't walk away. Listen, because if it slows down, you don't want it to burn. You'll take it out. It's going to pop up right in the bag without any fat. You're going to have a whole grain, high fiber, fat-free snack. Look at that. Yum. No fat whatsoever. You can eat it just like this, or you can put it into a bowl. Three cups of air pop popcorn will give you a serving of whole grain. I then like to flavor mine up a little bit. I use I Can't Believe It's Not Butter spray. Olivio also makes a spray that's also delicious. Either one, they're equally as good. They're butter sprays. They're less than a calorie a spray. And you can just spray your popcorn, as much as you'd like. And if you'd like extra flavor, this is from Sur La Table. It is popcorn seasonings. There's cheddar, there's Chicago mix, kettle corn. Chicago mix is a blend of both kettle corn and cheddar. But any one of these, I happen to love the cheddar. That's my favorite. If you don't have these, Sur La Table is located in many malls, similar to a Williams Sonoma. But if you don't get to Sur La Table, you certainly could use hot sauce. You could use Mrs. Dash seasoning blends. Paul Prudhomme, a chef from New Orleans, multiple medical issues. Enough jambalaya landed him in a wheelchair as a result of that experience. And he actually passed away months ago. But as a result of this, he developed a line of seasoning blends called Magic Seasonings. They are one of my favorites. All kinds of flavor combinations. They're sold right where your garlic salt, your garlic powder, in the seasoning aisle of your market. Sold in any market except for not in Trader Joe's. So these are great ways to include whole grains. Before I take some more questions, let me show you some of my favorite whole grains that I include every day in my life. And maybe I can direct you to some of these as well. For crackers, another one of my favorite crackers is called Crunch Master. Now these are gluten-free because they are made from brown rice. So you're going to find these in the gluten-free section of your market. They are whole grain. They're moderately high in fiber. My gold standard for cereal is shredded wheat. Shredded wheat has no added sugar. It's a great serving of whole grain, also high in fiber. For those who don't like shredded wheat, there are many other choices. There is Cheerios. This is the ancient grains. There is the original, the yellow box, and there is also the multigrain. So great cereals here. Be mindful when you're reading labels, as they can tell you a lot. This is Raisin Bran. Raisin Bran is actually made with whole grain, but there is in each serving of Raisin Bran, there is almost 5 teaspoons of sugar. So this is not my favorite cereal. These, however, are. You know, we see the commercial all the time of the woman getting in the dress because she's eating her Special K. Each serving of Special K is going to give you over 2 teaspoons of sugar. The first ingredient is rice, meaning white rice, meaning boom, 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 there goes your belly. So these are not great choices. These, however, are. When you're looking at crackers, be mindful. Really read these labels. Here are 2 Kashi crackers. They both say 7 grain. This one will tell you on the front part of the new labeling law that there's 16 grams of whole grain. That's a serving of whole grain in here. This one only gives you 10. 10 grams is not a whole serving. This does have 5 grams of fiber, so it's high in fiber. It doesn't give you quite a whole serving of whole grain. If I love this, but not this, that's okay. Include this. Just make sure you have more whole grain throughout the day. So don't discount something if it's low in something, high in something else. Just make sure you complement whatever the missing pieces are. Make sure you have whole grain pasta, as whole wheat will make that belly go up. So whole grain pasta and whole grain breads. There are many whole grain breads out there. This is one by Pepperidge Farm, but there's Arnold has one, Freihofer has one, Ezekiel is great bread. There are many great breads out there. Read the label, look for the word whole. What's interesting is that consumer studies show that consumers like to see the word multigrain. People buy their product more often if it says multigrain, even if it's a whole grain and it's whole grain you want. A great example, Late July, the company that makes Cape Cod potato chips, they tell you that this is a multigrain cracker. It's actually a whole grain cracker. It tastes delicious, good for you. This has been Dishin with the Dietitian. Thank you for coming. I'm going to take any questions that I have now. How do I see them? And please type in your questions and I'll be happy to respond. But thank you for understanding that we are new to this and we will only get better. If you could please subscribe, that would be great. So I will continue. And if you have any comments, please feel free to type them in. Stay tuned for upcoming segments. I'll show you how to navigate a supermarket. I'll show you some of my favorite picks in the market. We'll cook together as we put all that together. And we'll also discuss whatever you'd like, whether it's should you go vegan, should you go gluten-free, Whatever the question, I will try to address it in videos coming up. Thank you.